there are only a couple more weeks until our season 3 surprise here on Answerly. Spirit fingers. This week, however, we are talking about books we have read multiple times. Now, if you know me, you know that I have this thing where I almost absolutely cannot rewatch a movie or reread a book more than one time. And that is true for about 99% of books I've read and movies I've seen, even my absolute favorites, even ones that have blown me away. And I think that's because I read books and I watch movies for the initial thrill of not knowing what's going to happen, and it is very, very hard to recapture that. Although, to be honest, I have a really awful memory, and half the time I can't remember what books I've read and what books I haven't read, so I may have read some more than once and I just don't know it. So when I usually reread a book, it is for analytical purposes, and I know that I just now sounded like every single English teacher you have probably ever hated. Let's go analyze some books. But when I do reread a book or rewatch a movie just simply for enjoyment, that is how you know I really, 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 really liked it. For example, the Lizzie McGuire movie, I have seen it. I can't even count how many times I've seen that movie. But we are here to talk about books, and the one book that comes to mind that I have read a million times is the 4th Harry Potter book, and I have no idea what it is about the 4th Harry Potter book that has made me want to read it a million times. I do this thing when I'm reading a book, and I know a lot of people do this. I tear off a little piece of paper and I mark all of the pages that I enjoy, and that way I do not have to reread the entire book. Just to remember my favorite parts, I can just go to the bookmarks and reread just those parts. And I remember in the 4th Harry Potter book, when I was done, there was just about a slip of paper between every other page, so I just thought, well, I might as well reread this book a million more times, because obviously I really, really enjoyed it. So I went through my bookshelf to find a book that also had a lot of slips of paper in it, and I found Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. And I don't know if you can see that, but there are slips of paper between so many of the pages. And that's actually sort of weird because this is not really the type of book that I read at all. Silent Spring was published in 1962, and at the time it was this sort of revolutionary environmentalism expose. And I read this book for an organic gardening class I took, which I know sounds weird because it appears that I have never been outside before in my entire life. But it's one of those books you read and the entire time you're thinking, why has no one ever told me about this? And it just blows your mind over and over again. So this week, feel free to let us know what books you have reread over and over again. I would love to hear what books you have been interested enough in that you would reread them again and again and again. And stay tuned for season 3 of Answerly coming up right here. I gotta stop doing those faces. I will see you guys Wednesday. There is a chapter called Rivers of Death. Who would not want to read a book that has a chapter called Rivers of Death? That's like my favorite thing.